Confident Eaters. We are here with a special guest. It is my client, Sarah, who we just wrapped up with in the Confident Eater program. And I'm really excited to have Sarah on the podcast today because she has a lot in her story that I think a lot of you will be able to relate to with nighttime eating, weekend eating, holiday eating, all of these tricky situations that we've worked on together and ultimately overcome. So Sarah's going to share a little bit about her story today and the things that specifically helped her to get to where she is now feeling confident around food. So Sarah, will you say hi and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your relationship with food when you first came into the Confident Eater program?
Absolutely. Hi, Amber. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here. And if I can help someone in the way that you have helped me, it will make me feel so good. I started struggling with just food and body image at a pretty young age. I would say somewhere in high school when the talk just came up, like in athletics and sports and just in high school in general. And I started worrying about what I ate and how much I exercised. And it kind of just spiraled from there. As I went into college, it continued to get worse with binge eating. I would try to restrict and do tons of cardio, and then I would end up overeating every weekend. And the weekends definitely became my weekend. As I got older, it would continue. And I noticed that if I had an overwhelming day or a crazy chaotic day, that would kind of continue into my nutrition in the evening. As I became a mom and just became older and more intuitive about health and wellness and everything, I started to really notice that what I was doing just wasn't healthy. I have three girls of my own now, and I didn't want that for them. So I decided it was time to make a change. I wanted to get help, and that's when I reached out to you.
Mm-hmm. So I remember on our consultation call, I think it was right before Easter, it was like around that time. That was one of the situations that came up where you're like, ooh, Easter is typically a struggle for me. And then we were in springtime, but going into summer, it was like we have lake days and barbecues and vacations, and that was causing a lot of fear. So can you describe to me like what those types of situations used to look like for you around food?
Yeah, for sure. I would say any holiday was an automatic binge for me. A lot of times the weekends would be binging. I would like throw a birthday party for one of my girls. Once the party was over, I would sit there with the cake. I would eat cake until I felt sick to my stomach and went to bed feeling horrible. And summer was another time where I would try to like restrict or lose weight before summer. And then once summer came, it would just be every weekend we're at the lake or we're enjoying beverages. I love to make baked goods and I would end up binging on baked goods. And I really just had that all or nothing approach where like once I started, I just couldn't stop. Even going out to eat or going to a restaurant could trigger it. So yeah, a lot of those special events that continued to come in life triggered my binge eating
Mhm.
habits.
Yeah. And I know in the past, summer was kind of that time where it was calorie counting time to the max, and we were like going to stick to it, or at least try to stick to it, but that it would end up just causing more food stress. Can you talk a bit more about your relationship with calorie counting, macro counting, the scale, and how that all played into your stress around food?
Absolutely. I thought I was doing everything right by counting my macros and tracking and weighing myself once a week. What I really found out is that it ended up leading to restriction, which ultimately led to me binge eating again. And I was stuck in this vicious cycle. And so I would see, oh, I only have 200 calories left. I would panic and then I would end up eating a cookie. And all of a sudden, I would eat like 8 cookies. It just spiraled like it was just this all or nothing. Either I had to be perfect or I would completely fall off the bandwagon and eat until I was ashamed. It completely would just spiral.
Mhm. And I know that that's usually what most of us are taught for weight loss and health is like, okay, you just need to track your macros, look at the scale, make sure everything's like lining up as if it's like this perfect math equation. Because I know it's hard to move away from that when that's what we've been taught. But how are you able to go from that place of I need to track everything to being able to let go of that and really trusting your body?
When I started with you, I knew that I was going to have to do the hard work, the kind of almost let go of the fear of gaining weight and tracking because I knew that that is what ultimately was driving my binge eating. So I knew that if I really wanted to stop binge eating, that I needed to let go of that control, which really was leading to lack of control. But I needed to let go of that number and that obsession with tracking and trying to be perfect in order to become the healthiest version of myself. And once I stopped doing that, I found that I could listen to my body so much better. I was not trusting myself. I wasn't trusting my body. And I remember when you told me, like, your body is so smart. It's going to tell you when you're hungry and when you're full. And I finally started listening to that and not worrying so much about a certain number. And that helped me so much. And once I started waking up feeling better and not being bloated and noticing huge shifts in my energy and my mood, it made me want to continue to listen to my body and give it the nourishment and fuel that it needed. And then noticing that my identity isn't that number on the scale. I can make changes without stepping on the scale, just based off of how I feel. That really helped me a lot too. Because I noticed that seeing that number, a lot of times it wasn't helping me, it was only hurting me. So once I was able to let go of that, I had such a better relationship with myself and my body and my nutrition and just overall fueling my body.
Absolutely. And I know that it is difficult to let go of. But as you mentioned, something that I really try to do with people when we're coaching is connect into this feeling. And it's more than just like, how does this feel? But really noticing those very specific sensations of how is my energy level? How is my sleep? How is my mood? And we use specific tools and techniques in coaching to connect that into that part of your brain that's like, oh, but I want to binge right now. I want to overeat, and say no, because I want to feel good. And I remember on our first consultation call, you said that, I don't need a dietitian to show me the food pyramid. Like, I already know so much about food and calories and fitness and nutrition and all this stuff. What I really need to understand is, why am I not doing all the things that I know how to do? And I think having that support, that accountability, really tuning into things outside of the numbers, which is what your brain was focused on for so long, really helped you kind of unlock that freedom to be able to say, I'm going to choose to not eat this extra food or not overeat on the weekend, because I genuinely value how I feel, not just what the number on the scale says or how many calories I have left today.
Absolutely. Yes, it really gave me that freedom with food, and it really took away a lot of the food noise that I was struggling with so much. Almost labeling foods like good and bad, or I did good today, or I did really bad. And it took away just that shame and that guilt around food and allowed me to just listen to my body and give it what it needs and eat things in moderation. And I'm just truly amazed by how I haven't binged, which I never thought was possible, and just how I'm able now to stop eating food and I make that choice on my own, and just all the things. I'm just so amazed.
I think one of the other big changes that comes to mind as a big insight for you was when we did the real versus fake foods lesson, and we worked on changing your protein powders and protein bars. I think that's something that a lot of people are eating a lot of today. Can you tell us about the changes that you made with that and how it impacted your relationship with food?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be honest, when we started, I was kind of thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, the one thing I cannot give up is my protein bar. Like, I really love it and I look forward to it. But it was funny when I just started making those small shifts, like changing my one protein bar that I have for a snack every day, that I thought was like this great snack. It's low calorie, high protein. What I found is it actually left me wanting more, like more hungry. So once I switched to more whole foods, I knew that I was full and satisfied, and that my body, it didn't leave it confused and almost just like wanting more and more. I think the protein bars and the protein shakes and all of that just led me to wanting more food, where when I'm eating real food, I felt full, I felt satisfied, and was able to listen to like my hunger and fullness cues so much better.
Anything else that you want to mention that you felt like was a big shift that is different about your life now after the program?
I definitely don't feel so anxious going into holidays, weekends, the summertime, birthday parties. I just have really feel finally like I can trust myself, and just not focusing so much on food noise or the scale tracking. I wake up each day and I just take it one day at a time, and I just say, you know what, for today, I'm choosing not to binge. That new identity has just been huge for me, that like I don't binge. And then once you start to to celebrate that each win, it just seems to add up and compile. And all of a sudden, you have the confidence to not do it and to just listen to your body and notice how good that feels. Just leaving that all or nothing approach behind has mentally and physically felt so good for me, because before I just felt like I was on this roller coaster mentally and physically, like, oh, I'm perfect. And then next thing you know, I'm like rock bottom crashing. I feel horrible about myself. I have to start over tomorrow. I feel shame. I feel guilt. And it took away that roller coaster. And now it's like, by no means am I perfect, but my mental and physical health feels so much more stable and grounded. It just feels so much better. It's just taken that roller coaster energy out and allowed me to just feel good all the time versus that all or nothing approach, which has just been huge for me. And it's given me the confidence that I can do this. Everything is a choice and you get a result from it. It's not good or bad. It's truly, truly changed my life. And I feel like I can be such a better example for my girls moving forward. And not only the binge eating and everything, but it's also just helped me with my body image. Because I think a lot of those choices stem from body image, just wanting this certain number on the scale. All the phrases and the questions and everything that you asked me and told me, they sit in my head now. And it's so helpful to have that.
I love it. And is there anything that you found most helpful or loved the most about working together or the program in general?
I think the overall accountability, I really needed that. And just to be able to talk to someone who really knew how I felt, because it's a hard thing, first of all, to admit to yourself that it's a problem, because I went on for years truly binge eating and just thinking, oh, I don't binge eat, or maybe just assuming it wasn't as bad as I thought, or that I would stop eventually. Soon it got to a point where I felt like I couldn't even help myself. I was like, wow, I've tried for so long. I'm stuck in this vicious cycle. And so to finally have somebody who I could relate to, who could get it, I knew I needed help, but I kind of knew that like a dietitian or a counselor or a therapist, I needed somebody who had been there and experienced it themselves that could help get me out of this. And how you taught me to rewire my brain and create those new pathways and gave me just the confidence and celebrating the wins, the accountability, the check-ins, all of it was just so helpful. And like I said, just the things that you would ask me or the phrases that you would give me, like, just for today, I'm choosing not to binge. All of it just stuck with me and helped me go months without binging and just even surprise myself that this was possible. I'm still shocked, actually, that it was possible and that it's my new reality and identity. And it feels so good.
Yeah. One thing that I think was super fun about your journey is you pretty much signed up for the program. We had like a couple of weeks before we started, and you came into the first call and you're like, I haven't even binged. And it kind of just continued on through that throughout the journey. Of course, there's going to be ups and downs. And that's what's so beautiful about having that accountability and support is you have someone there to help you with those obstacles. But it was almost like this big shift happened in you right away, just from admitting, I want support from this and that this is something I'm struggling with. And now I have this friend and this partner and this coach who's going to help guide me through it in this new way. And I think that just making that decision alone really shifted something in your brain. And this happens to a lot of people too. We're just like deciding, okay, I'm gonna take this seriously now. I'm not just going to keep shoving this under the rug. And then you also have a time investment, a financial investment. You have some skin in the game then. You're like, I'm serious about solving this. And so I think something really flips in our brain too, where we're like, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to where I need to be. And I know that I have someone who genuinely can help me through this now too. Do you agree that you think that's kind of like what shifted in those weeks for you?
Absolutely. It's almost like you hit rock bottom. You feel so defeated and just like, I can't win this battle. It's almost like any addiction or sickness, really, where you're just, I am so fed up. I don't even know what to do anymore. You just finally admit to yourself, I need help. I don't want this for myself. I want better. I want to be the best version of myself. I want to be a great example to my children and everybody around me. And in order to do that, I knew I needed to take that step to get help. I was ready to make that change. And I'm so thankful that you were able to help me through it. Also, just like you said, it won't always be easy. And it doesn't mean I perfectly did it either. But now I'm aware that I get to learn from it. If I come home and I overeat or whatever, I can say, why did I do that? what did I actually need in that moment? And I can learn from it instead of having shame or guilt or starting over. I get to just say, I think I was overwhelmed or I was tired or I needed rest, and we get to move on. It really helped me to know you won't be perfect, but you get to learn from it. And now I know I can recognize why I possibly used to do it. And in the moment now, I can take that and go, okay, I think I'm actually just really overwhelmed and tired from the day. I think I actually need to just sit down on my deck and take a few deep breaths and like read a book instead of eat 7 cookies, which is actually going to make me feel worse.
Right.
So there's a lot more that goes into it, I think, than what I thought even. It's not just the food, it's your emotions and how you're feeling, how your day went. I didn't realize how much went into it. And some of it I feel like could even be like that, but also the restriction, like restricting so much that your body's like, no, I actually need more. And now that you're in a weak spot, I'm going to get more. So just learning all of that too really brought to light for me. This is why you're doing this. And then a lot of it too, I think was habit. Like, oh, it's Easter. This is what we do on Easter. We binge. Or, oh, it's a birthday party. Oh, you're done. You're overwhelmed. This is what we do. We binge. So just rewiring my brain to get away from those old habits and going into autopilot. Once I became aware, I was able to step back and almost zoom out and go, okay, this is what I need right now. This is what I'm feeling right now. This is why I feel like binging. What can I do instead?
Yeah. Sometimes people will ask me, will I be successful in the program? And I'm like, well, how do we even define that? But what I can say is that every single person who goes through the program knows how to get back up from a slip up, knows how to stop beating themselves up, knows how to stop turning it into a 3-day binge instead of just a 30-minute binge. And that's exactly what you're describing is, no one's going to be a perfect eater. There's going to be times in life where sometimes we eat a little bit more than we wanted to, or we had an extra cookie and it didn't feel great in our body. And so the goal is not to avoid that forever because no one can do that forever, but to learn, okay, if that happens, how do I get right back to it and speak kindly to myself and just get right back to my normal eating habits? Because that's what normal eaters do. Normal eaters don't have a perfect calorie meal plan all day long. They have ebbs and flows to their eating habits. So when we get out of that all or nothing thinking, that's what allows us to just say, okay, I had a little bit more to eat this weekend, and then I just move on. And then that allows us to actually maintain our weight, to feel good, to not have all of these negative side effects that we get from when we say screw it, and then it turns into a full binge.
100%. Absolutely.
So what would you say if someone's on the fence and they're maybe where you are, where they're like, I know I'm struggling with this, but I'm not sure if I want to get help or not? What would you tell someone who's on the fence about joining the program?
I would say absolutely do it. It will be the best decision you ever make in your life. I don't even know how I got to this point, but I'm so thankful. It was the best decision I've made. I wish I would have did it a long time ago. But again, it takes those steps of saying, okay, I need help. First admitting it, kind of like noticing it and admitting it, and then being brave enough to get help. And like you said, having those people that support you and are there for you. It's definitely the best decision I've ever made.
I'm so glad that you feel that way. And I definitely think it is an investment. And we work on so much too. You were talking about how much you realize, oh my gosh, there's kind of a lot that we work on together and how much it's all connected. I remember working on when your day is so chaotic that bleeds into the chaos of eating after work. And it feels like it's just this continual chaos of eating. And it's like, oh, if we can learn to slow down at work, to remove stress at work, to feel better during that allows us to feel better at night and then have less urges for food. And so it's also connected. And that's why it's nice to be able to address kind of all these other life factors too that can play into it while also giving you the skills around food itself.
Absolutely. Yep. There's so much connected to it. And it was so nice to feel seen. Even when I've listened to your podcast in the past, I'm just like, wow, I feel so seen. And even that alone is just so helpful because it's like, okay, if they can do it, there's just this hope for me that maybe I can do it too. Like maybe this is it.
Yeah. Well, are there any last minute tips or things that you want to leave people with from your journey or insights that you had throughout our time together?
One other thing I would just put out there is I use a lot of dialogue in my head, like, oh, I can't have that, or I shouldn't have that. I know I mentioned I labeled things like good and bad, where I felt like once I kind of let go and gave myself permission throughout this to eat a cookie on a Monday or Once I gave my brain permission, it's almost, it didn't want it so bad. Now I, in moderation, will eat the things I truly want. But sometimes when you binge, it's not even what you want. It doesn't even taste good. You're just like an autopilot. And I just noticed that once I took that restriction away and gave my brain and myself permission to eat the things I want when I want, I actually didn't have that urge so bad to binge. So that was one thing that I really noticed, is that when you actually have pleasure with food, it can take that guilt and shame away and you can have it and just move on.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And definitely a big thing we do together is give you your choice back and your power back, because many of us have been taught for so many years that we can't have this and we can't have this. And it's just coming from random diets that just told us this and we didn't really agree with it. So it's giving us our choice and our power back of, what do I want to choose? Like you said earlier, one of the big takeaways, there's no good or bad foods. There's all just kind of foods that give us results or consequences, gives us certain feelings in our body. But we can choose, what do we want right now? What feels worth it to us? What doesn't feel worth it to us? And when we can realize, oh, I have that power back, I get to choose, then we don't feel so rebellious, because we're the ones who made up the rules. We're the ones who are deciding what we actually want versus someone else randomly telling us what to do.
Yeah, for sure. I feel so much freedom around food now and just free of that food noise. And I feel like I can trust myself again. I feel like I'm in control. I have the power. And physically, I just feel so much better. My body feels better too, like just less bloated, more energy, less up and down mentally, and just a better overall mood. And now I feel like I'm a good example for my daughters, and I get to help other people and just be a good example to everybody around me, and just so much positive out of it. And I didn't even think it was possible. So I'm so thankful.
I love it. Thank you for all those kind words. So if you are listening to Sarah's story right now and you're like, oh my gosh, this is me too, and I want to get to where she is now, I want you to head to the show notes. And this is where you'll be able to get more information on the Confident Eater program and where you can book a complimentary consultation call with me. This is where we will assess your history with food and pinpoint exactly where you're getting stuck so you can learn how to finally eat normally. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on today and bringing your story to the listeners, and I'll see you around.
Thanks so much, Amber.